So, as mentioned on the title, I'm going to be talking about that paranormal experience that I had on behalf of that trailer. And I'm also going to mention another paranormal event that happened in the same city in Carson, California. So, stay tuned.
I know there's two paranormal events that I said I was going to mention, but I'm going to mention a third one too.
I didn't think any of these kinds of experiences would ever happen. I was always skeptical about these kinds of stuff and never really thought much of it. I heard stories about these encounters, and one of which in the past included me. Like when my older brother used to tell me that there was a three-headed ghost that hovered over me in the living room while I was sleeping as a kid. This was at an older house that my family and I used to live in Long Beach, California. That what seemed to be a three-headed apparition floating over me scared my brother that much that he got off next to me from the sofa bed that I slept on and went to my parents' room yelling and crying. If I saw what my older brother saw with his own eyes, it would have been the same way with me at the time, perhaps. Just the way how I saw my older brother looked. He honestly did look very frightened. If it wasn't all too serious, then why would he wake me up in the middle of the night and run to my parents' room that quickly? If I really had to think about it, why was that three-headed spectral apparition floating over me for? I wonder what it would have done if my older brother was also asleep. But then again, maybe I'm glad that nothing else would have happened to any of us, if anything. When I saw my parents come out the room, they immediately noticed the evil apparition and had some sort of sacred water and splashed it at the dark apparition and started chasing it down the basement and closed it shut afterwards. Now that was a very terrifying moment, but I never witnessed it with my very eyes at the time. I just agreed that there was some sort of phenomenon that I was too ignorant to know even exists. That's until I started working as a security guard. And this particular place, as I said before, was one which will always be in my memory lingering around. I usually started working on the third shift at this particular place of work. Now I can't disclose the actual address at this place because I didn't get any permission. This was back in 2014, by the way. Co-workers that worked at the second shift on different days had each individually told me that they have seen a female apparition, either from their rear view or side mirrors of their car. And they were parked pretty close to the back of the building where the warehouse and small freight yard is. And eventually, they decided to park more near the entrance area because of fear. Now, I'd be afraid too if I saw that. So the female apparition is known to have long hair and no face. I still didn't think much of it. Even after all I was told about this female faceless spirit that may as well be a demon or some sort of. So late one night, I was on my third shift and it was about an hour before the new year sprung about in 2015. I usually went to do my nightly inventory check with regards to the listings of trailers, containers, chassis, etc. that are currently on site. There was one trailer that seemed to make a lot of weird and what seemed like ecstatic shocking noise all over the trailer. It was subtle but noticeable. I don't think it's rustles of leaves inside or some sort of kinds of insects, but this in particular sounded very strange. I think I've heard a low hissing sound also. This was when I was making my way through the side of this specific trailer and a container to my left, so it was a kind of a narrow walkthrough. I was kind of annoyed. I just tapped the trailer a couple of times, and suddenly the ecstatic hissing noise stopped. I didn't think much of it also at that end. I just kept going on to my next freight container. As soon as I went by the front near the corner of that trailer, I looked at the container to my left that I was including in the inventory. I immediately heard 3 really loud bangings on that trailer. As if somebody really hit the front of it with their bare hands or fist. Didn't seem anything dropped inside. For some odd reason, I didn't want to stay back there long. So I went and tried to wing it with the inventory, but I was so scared that I went right out the freight yard and stayed just a bit past the yard and across the corner of the building. I started sobbing and felt frightened. For some reason, I didn't want to go back there again until maybe I've gathered much more courage. But what really helped me was when I phone called my mom. And she told me not to worry and wanted me to do an Asian Buddhist prayer to help relieve the issue. While I was praying and talking to my mom, I just couldn't stop looking back there. After we ended the call, I was still in fear and decided that I will go to the front of the building near the entrance and the exit driveway. Just like those 2 co-workers that told me about these paranormal experiences. I kinda do believe that now. That night and other nights, I just sat in a chair in front of the building and was still in fear. Just looking at the side of the building at the front to my left. Just wondering if that specific trailer was gonna just show up out of nowhere. But it never did. And there was times that after some days of working there, I decided to call off a bit because that what I believed to be a paranormal experience gave me a short-term PTSD. My night supervisor did arrive when I called him during the occurrence and checked around the trailers and couldn't find any issue, either with the electricals or anything else since it was a full load and sealed. The freight company employees had gotten a call from me about this and told me that they couldn't find anything wrong with the trailer at all. They also don't believe anything fell inside. I believe that because the 3 banging seems like as if someone was hitting it from the outside and doesn't sound like anything dropped inside. So that's why I was really weirded out about it and filled with fear. I've checked around and no one was there either at the time. There was a time that I've gathered more courage to work there, but I ended working for another security company altogether that same year. The freight company stopped having security doing any security duties there after a couple years later or so. After I've started working for another security company later on, I've revisited the freight place where all the paranormal stuff happened. Just driving by and looking at it seems very ghastly, but nothing too much to give me PTSDs again. But they sure did secure the right driveway a bit more by putting a second metal bar fence barrier. But I promise you, there is no security working there again. They may very well have security jobs in the future there, maybe. And some people may or may not have that paranormal experience, like what others and myself experienced. The next paranormal experiences that I've had was located in Carson, California. The location is just exactly the same one that I've mentioned of the previous paranormal encounter. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on this one, but this one was at a business office building. This place had its days with companies and employees until at one point of my experience working there as a security guard, and it's now vacant and is strictly secured as of 2025. I wouldn't trespass this place or visit inside there for paranormal investigations, only if you get consent from the building owner. After about a year working there at the time, since 2018, the place became vacant and I'm the only one working there on the third shift. There's something about working alone sometimes, especially the third shift. It could creep me the hell out. I'm just saying. But this building in particular wasn't too scary to begin with, being alone at the time. But I did become scared half more at a time working there gradually. I usually have music playing to kind of relieve myself from fear, especially when I had to do my bi-hourly patrols. But sometimes the music didn't really help and I was still kind of scared. There are numerous times when I went inside this specific room on the first floor. I could hear as if someone on the right above me on the second floor making thud sound. I'm not too overly sure who or what it is, or if the building just makes those noises. I don't think it is at all about the building making those kinds of noise, because I did went to check upstairs in the very room that's below the one that I was at, and I didn't see anyone or anything that could have made those thumping noises. I still think it isn't the building making those noises on its own. Maybe sometimes it does, but every time I'm in that room on the first floor, there seems to always be some thud sound that sounds like as if someone is up there. But there was no point of checking the upstairs floor again at that very room, because there's no one in the building but me. There was also a time when I started using the restroom, being that I'm the only one in the building most of the time, and especially the third shift. I could hear the toilet flush on its own in the other restroom beside the one I'm in. These particular urinals and toilets didn't have an automatic flush and needed to manually flush it. So I'm just still flabbergasted that these occurrences happened. Seems paranormal to me. But even with these that I think is paranormal encounters, this experience in particular didn't give me PTSDs like the first one I've had encountered. I have slept on the job at this place before, and one time I was asleep in the car in the front at night. I had what seemed to be not a nightmare, but a demonic visit from a demon. I could tell he's a demon because when he looked at me, it was clear already. He was in the car with me and told me some things, but I'll not get too much into details on that. He seemed to be telling me something I should know though, but I'll not spoil the sense of things that he mentioned to me. I do have nightmares, but none of them ever entailed these two places I've come across, where I had these, what seem to be paranormal experiences. I do have nightmares, but none of them ever entailed the two places I've come across, where I had these, what I believe to be paranormal experiences. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching and listening, and be sure to like and subscribe. Have a wonderful day.